brilliant. It's incredible. Why is that incredible? Anybody could pick up that guitar and talk about their lives. Why is it special? What makes it so important when this person does it?
Hello, friends. Welcome to Mostly Harmless. I'm your host, Damien. Buddies, welcome back to episode 2 of volume 2 of Mostly Harmless. And today, guess what? We have 2 very special guests on the second episode. Don't worry, there's not going to be 3 guests next week, I don't think. This week, we're hanging out and we're chatting with 2 of my oldest and dearest friends, Micah Schnabel from 2 Cow Garage, and his partner in crime, partner in life, adventures on the road, artist extraordinaire, Vanessa Jean Speckman. Micah, as I just mentioned, you probably know from 2 Cow Garage. Micah is also a great, fantastic solo singer-songwriter in his own right. This is his newest record right here, Teenage Years of the 21st Century. This is also his novel that came out last year. Hello, my name is Henry, out now from White Gorilla Press. Vanessa, you've probably seen her works on the covers of John Moreland records. You've probably seen her work with Frank Turner. Frank Turner, you know that guy? Also, Vanessa did the artwork for both of these Micah things. Isn't that pretty cool? So we're going to talk to them about living together, working together, touring together, creating art, and how you can find your own voice. Also, I wanted to talk to the 2 of them about what it was like being in Europe on tour with Frank Turner as the COVID-19 lockdowns and shutdowns were happening. Pretty harrowing adventure, pretty coool stuff. Please visit saveourstages.com. That is our fundraiser of the month. Please just go, write your congressman, and save our stages. This week we have Micah and Vanessa talking about the Rumba Cafe, a really great room in Columbus, Ohio. And if you like all that and more, please go click that subscribe button, buddy. Subscribe on YouTube. It's the easiest, best way to help us out. Also, if you want to hear the whole hour and 10-minute version of this that we cut down to like 45 minutes, Patreon. Throw us a couple dollars and you can get access behind the scenes of Mostly Harmless. All that and more. I'm going to quit rambling, guys. Let's go ahead and let's chat with Micah and Vanessa. Oh, hey guys, how are you?
Hey!
Hello, friend.
Good to see you, my friend.
Man, it's so good to see Micah and Vanessa. How the hell is Columbus, Ohio these days?
It's cold. It's starting to get cold.
Yeah.
Short days.
A little gray, a little dreary.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I don't want to talk about COVID too much, but you guys were in Europe about to go on the biggest tour of your lives when all this shit went down. Can you just tell us real quickly, tell us the story about what was going on over there in Europe and what that experience was like for you guys?
Yeah. We flew over like February 27th or 27th, I think. So there wasn't much stateside, at that point, and it was, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And so tour started, and I think the first 2 nights were absolutely beautiful and pure, and everything was normal and felt normal. And then things just started to...
Around show 4, it took the turn, and it was kind of like, all right, I don't know if we're going to get through this. What's happening? The UK was about a week behind the US at that point. So we ended up getting 9 or 10 shows in, but by the 4th or 5th show, it was day to day, hour to hour, waiting to see when it was going to be called.
And then the last 2 shows were definitely like you could feel it in the numbers and in the audience and interactions at the merch table and where to, keep Frank protected and trickle down to us. And
so when it got called, fortunately we were like 40 minutes out of London, so we jumped on the bus and got dropped off at Frank's house, Frank and Jess's house.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of terrifying because
Americans couldn't buy tickets out because of the shutdown, Trump shutdown. So we weren't able to buy tickets, and Tree, Frank's wonderful tour manager, because she's a British citizen, was able to get us tickets out. And that was about 4 days after the last show.
Yeah. So I was like on my phone trying to buy tickets for us back home, and it just wouldn't go through for like 24 hours. So fortunately we ended up getting those last minute tickets home, and we flew home, but still we knew it was bad. Like I was talking with Shane and like asking him how it was here. And so we were talking, but
he was our level man of like not. We're like, if we're gonna talk to anyone, Shane's gonna be the one who's gonna keep us calm and keep us in the loop.
So we flew home, and things weren't as weird as they should have been. You know, like it should have been.
It was down to like the 5 or 6 airports that the CDC was allowing international travel through. So we did. Thankfully, Tree was texting me while this was happening, and I said Chicago because if something goes awry once we land, we're at least in driving distance of Columbus. And we just did a brief temperature check and bullshit questionnaire in Chicago. And
luckily some friends lined up some food and stuff for us when we got home. So we got home and just
quarantined,
and we stayed pretty tight to that since March 20th when we walked back in our door.
I can't imagine how scary it is to be in another country and they're telling you can't go home, and there's so much misinformation or so much unknown about the disease at that time going through your heads. Like, how did you guys stay sane? How did you guys make it through?
Laughing.
I think I'm kind of at this point a little thankful that they didn't know.
Yeah.
Like it was, which it really is awful, of course. But at that time, everything was so unknown, and
there was only a few people in the airport with masks.
The
oddest thing at the airport was the second terminal. Once you go through like customs and that kind of stuff, all the food was shut down there. So that was like the whole toilet paper pinch and all that bullshit. Like we did not really experience that because we were traveling.
Yeah.
And in but I mean, like definitely being in a cab or getting to the airport that last like 24 hours was kind of odd. Like, don't cough, don't let your accent be known.
Yeah. when we landed in Chicago and we got through customs, and we had to wait in the line, and the people are in like not full hazmat, a couple people in hazmat suits, but there's but everybody's lined up, no masks or anything, and we're just all. That's when we could tell like this isn't right, and we weren't sure if we were going to be like forced to quarantine or something
in Chicago.
Chicago, so that was a little unnerving. But then we just signed a paper and they took our temperature and let us through, and that was maybe even more unnerving because we're like, oh, we're just not doing it.
Yeah. And Jamie, merch for Frank, had flown home maybe about 6 days before us, so he was kind of sharing his experience too. So, but yeah, I think like Micah said, if we had known more, I think it would have been terrifying.
Yeah.
So.
Here's the ignorance.
Right.
Yeah. How many?
Hand sanitizer in Bath, England. So.
Oh, man. How many more shows did you guys have with Frank, or was that almost done?
I think we had 5 more.
Oh, still, that's got to be and then playing with Frank Turner and overseas over in his pond, neck of the woods, whatever you'll have it, it's got to be even more incredible. And then for all this shit,
tour bus tour, we had our own suite. It was incredible, but pandemic.
Yeah. At least we can write this one off, I think, in our tax returns for all the time. I'm like, well, it'll be the asterisk year. Oh man. But so as I was telling you guys earlier, when I decided I was going to bring the show back, I want to kind of start bringing different realms and scenes of people in here. I've become obsessed with art because I can't make it, or so I think. And of course, I've always been into the music, so I've always been interviewing music people. So it became a real easy choice to talk to you two because of Vanessa. Of course, you were the artist making all these wonderful art, and Micah, you were of course the musician. So I can do a twofer in one.
Yeah.
But as I was preparing for this, like I kept thinking about how you guys have been together for so long. You tour together, you make art together, live together, bathe together, all those things together. Me and my girlfriend just moved in February. Shutdown happened March 14th, and then here we are. And we did great. Like everybody I know is like, oh my God, I was so worried for you two because neither one of us have ever lived with a partner before. And so when I talk to other couples, I've always been like, what's your secret? How do you guys do this? And I've gotten some really great advice. So if you guys don't mind, and then you guys have just been in quarantine together for God knows how long.
Years.
Really, yeah, exactly. Like, so first off, like, if you guys don't mind, like, how did you two meet through all this stuff that we're involved in?
Probably through the zine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was making Lubricated zine at the time.
Which I happen to have right here.
Yeah.
Not the episode with him in it.
Yeah, I was living in San Jose, California, and Micah was on tour with 2Cow. And did we help you? I think we helped you with the show in San Jose at the Caravan.
On that tour, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we met in San Francisco.
We went to this show the night before. Virgil from Suburban Home was kind of the intersection of...
Yeah, the conduit there.
Yeah. So met in San Francisco and then helped you guys with the show the next day in San Jose. And
we just became friends then.
For a couple years, yeah.
Was it a couple years? And then we saw each other at this Suburban Home. I forget what anniversary party that was, and we were just friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just ended up together on right there before we met up with you on the 10th anniversary tour.
Yeah,
that was when we had really connected.
Yeah,
days before.
Exactly, literally days before.
Yeah, I remember being with you guys on that tour and just being like, I don't remember who it was I talked to. It might have been Murph, where I was like, I think there's something going on with those two. And he was like, you think? You know? So it again, thank you for letting me be a part of watching that happen and then talking about it today. So,
but I would say in terms of like how one of the things that's similar to touring is like, no matter how much you've got going on, that other person is dealing with it.
It's like the key to all of it. No matter how much you're putting up with somebody else, they're putting up with you.
You said it way better than I did.
And that's kind of the being in a band, being in a relationship. It's like, you might be, no matter how mad you are at something that somebody else, that the other person did, like they're putting up with you too, you know? And if you're ever to pull yourself back from that, then you can usually find a middle ground somewhere, even if it takes a little bit of time or something. So, especially working as close as we do, touring together and living together, and like, yeah, it's hard and it's challenging, but we're also so incredibly fortunate that we get to do that.
Yeah, I think we're good at reading the other person of when support is needed, or to kind of take the lead or the reins. I think we've spent so much time in weird situations and having to figure it out and stay alive and get home internationally during a pandemic that like
we've done that.
We just keep saying like we've not been in this before. And
like you learn you learn your strengths and weaknesses, and you learn their strengths and weaknesses, and like you said, you can pick up slack when it's time to pick up slack, or you can back off and follow when it's not your strong suit, you know.
And at the end of the day, we want to be together, so if you fuck up the laundry, I don't even know, you don't fuck up the laundry, you do a great job. Like, whatever it is, that's not a deal breaker. So
and so it's been like 9 years of you guys living together, working together, touring together. Like, do you guys ever get alone time?
Yeah. Not right now. Not right now.
We do, like...
I mean, normally, like when 2Cow's touring, or I'll go out to California to see family, usually for a couple weeks.
And also... like when we work from home, but we work every single day. Yeah. So it's not like, we wake up, and have our coffee together and everything, but then like she comes to her workspace, I go to my workspace, and we're there for not, 10 to 10 or whatever, you know what I mean? And obviously like together during the day and stuff, but we have separate work days, because we both have stuff that needs to get done, things that need made or shipped out, or things we're just working on, and obviously we can come together when we're stuck on something and help each other work through things and stuff. But we have separate work days in a healthy, that I think it helps keep the relationship healthy.
For sure. It's structured.
There's a structure to it, and we're not just, it's not like we wake up every day and just sit on the couch and wait for something to happen. We're pretty structured in our work. What
is your guys' routine? You guys are only working from home now. You're only your art is your living right now. Is that right, or is there something else in there?
No, we're home. I mean, which is interesting because it's been challenging because like when we were long distance, Columbus was definitely a central base for us in terms of goals and our careers separately and together. And then also monetarily, it really allowed me and him to go back and forth and see my family and friends and keep that separation not so intense.
Mm-hmm.
So this, excuse me, has been challenging in terms of, one, our home is pretty small, you know, and two, just being far. So that's been like the only.
Yeah, Columbus is always, it's just been our kind of home base because we travel so much. This has just been, you know, we have a tiny little apartment that's home base. It's where our, you know, we make our home, but we're gone so much that it just made sense to be here. So that is probably the biggest challenge of being here for 9 months, not being able to leave is like,
the hardest part. But yeah. Besides, again, like we've been able to do virtual shows. You know, my Etsy shop has been able to remain open, but it doesn't look much different than when we're off of tour in terms of, I think we're more night owls. We both are more productive post dinner, I would say. So, you know, wake up. Micah's always the coffee maker.
Wake up in the morning, have coffee.
You usually read. I usually do yoga, hang out in my room. We have lunch, and then the day starts to build. Usually, hopefully, if it's idealistic, creatively, you know, with like no post office runs or that's pretty much it these days. Grocery store.
Vanessa's here in the studio, and I work in the kitchen. I sit at the kitchen table. That's where I work, and she yells down the hall if she wants water or something. Or, you know, like,
I have to code how bad the injury is. I'm like, code red, code orange, just if it's worth running down and helping me. But I mean, it hasn't been much different. We're just home all the time. You know?
The challenges of working from home with a partner.
Mm-hmm. And living in the city too. That's like the other thing. Just again, of having this be definitely the focus of being at home base of, you know, if I had to do over and know that I was going to be living in a pandemic, I would have gotten, you know, a garden and a fenced off yard where I didn't have to deal with like neighbors or people walking down the city street. So it's just been interesting observing things home so much more.
Yeah,
you know?
That's been an interesting, like, really being home and like watching seasons change in one place and everything. Like that's nothing that we've ever done. I've ever done.
Nor put so much time and effort into the home. Like,
yeah, we've been nesting like crazy.
But it's nice. It's nice. It's just different, and it hasn't ever really been a huge goal of ours. Not that our home is a shithole or anything, but it's just, it was always like
it's been a home base. It's never been a big focus, so it's been an interesting turn of events.
Yeah.
You guys are always together though.
Yeah.
I mean, there's obviously there's challenges to that. Like there are days where she hates me, and vice versa. But you know, at the end of the day, you know that's who you want to be with, so you just kind of navigate it and work it out.
Yeah,
it's always over really funny stuff in retrospect.
Really, just really nonsensical stuff that you just, for whatever reasons, set you off on that day.
You just can't communicate. That's what it is. I mean,
that's life, I think. I don't think there's any advice to give anybody or anything. It's just
be a better communicator. Yourself and like talking to myself. Be a better communicator.
Be nicer to yourself and be nicer to everybody else. And
it's an intense time. I mean, anything, like even talking to my parents who are, you know, older and have been together forever. Like sometimes both of them are like, help, you know, your mom's driving you nuts. We're moving the sofa again, or like whatever it is. I'm like, oh, we're doing that over here too.
I mean, it's a challenge. You just got to do it. Plus, everybody's just trying to cope as best they can right now in this time. I think, you know, if we can make it through this, then I think it's a pretty strong testament to any relationship, friendship, relationship, any.
I mean, and even if you're by yourself, I just think, again, like Micah's number one rule in all of this is just staying alive. And I don't mean that funny or ironically, even though it sounds that way. Like, and even if you are by yourself, like, that's all it is right now, is this is horribly intense, and all we have to do is especially get through these next 2 months and just stay alive.
Stay alive and get to the other end.
How is the creative aspect of your lives helping carry you through this transition?
It's my coping mechanism. It's the way that I deal with life and talk to the world. Because for the most part, I think I'm pretty quiet, because I always say something and then almost immediately regret it like an hour or two later. The only time I don't do that is when I write it down and focus on it for 6 weeks and tear it apart. So that's the only time I really don't. And then I still sometimes end up regretting the things that I say. But yeah, that's my coping mechanism to the world. So waking up every day and it's been hard to focus during this time. It's not been like some like writer's retreat or anything. Because obviously everything's changing every day, and with the election and just, going to slip into authoritarianism. Great. So it's been hard to focus, but it's my way of dealing with the world.
Yeah, I think having like the goal markers of the election being, at least Trump that way, and then kind of being like, okay, it's going to be next spring until vaccines roll out. Having those like goal markers has started to help me be like able to focus, because I've had a horrible time. Like you've been wonderful about reading and at least writing, even when you say it's garbage or whatever, but even for that's been hard for me to focus. So I think having those goal markers, or at least the time frame, and like kind of knowing like, okay, we're holding off on, seeing family or whatever idea we thought normalcy could be in this. It's like,
yeah, I do think we had the luxury coming out from a different country and everything, like really reading about it. We kind of knew it was going to be at least a year. So it's not like
no shocker.
Yeah, it's not like we've been hanging on thinking like, well, next week it's it's going to be great. Like we knew it was going to be probably around a year and a half. So we've been kind of knowing that, I think, has helped with the focus a little bit.
Well, what have you guys been making? I know you've mentioned writing, Micah, Vanessa, you're doing your stuff, but what have you guys been making? Has this whole thing sparked another interest in you guys, maybe?
Well, Micah's been helping, so pushing me to finish editing and putting together a small book of poetry and writing on my end. Fortunately and unfortunately, I'm still able to work with my Etsy shop. So I think what's been interesting going into the holiday season is it's almost made me pull back. Like I've taken a lot of items down that I don't necessarily have pre-made or in stock, just to try to be more selfish in this time, which is a complete luxury and privilege. So yeah, the book is my focus, and I've been pretty busy with commissions and Etsy orders. Excuse me. So I'm excited to kind of get through Christmas and then focus on those quiet, normal winter months that would be slow for an artist to get this together.
Yeah. When I got home, I finished. The goal was, when we got home from the Frank tour, was Tuca was going to record a new record. Obviously that didn't happen, but I had came home and had the goal. I knew I needed to finish like 2 or 3 songs for that. So I got home, had that focus, finished those songs, and then started moving on to some just newer stuff in this new world that we're living in. Again, my writing is how I speak in the world, I think. So how do I deal with the fact that even though Donald Trump lost, over 70 million people voted for him? How do I talk to that world? Because it's half of this country, so that's been a whole new spark of like, somebody's got to talk to somebody.
Well, and also with that, like, because you were like ping-ponging back and forth of like, well, should I say these songs? And some of them have just been phone recordings. We did get into secret studio one day for an isolated recording of
Existential Dread Machine
for you, but it's kind of been like, well, the commentary is not commentary, but the narrative, it's all right now. So
yeah, it really
there's an urgency to, no reason for, especially during a pandemic while we're all home and isolated, to kind of be sitting on it. So I feel like in both of us, it's kind of like, get it out there.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think we've always worked under
Yeah. I'll be honest. When the pandemic really first started hitting, I was like, I could start the podcast back again, and I resisted it so much because so many people are doing it that I just kept going. I kept exploring things. I think in the same way you guys are exploring things with, like, do I use my voice this way? Do I use my voice that way? So and with this time around, it's like, well, what stories can I tell? And I'm still trying to figure that out. But I think these stories of, like, you guys together making art, or how you can save your music venue, I think, like, I'm just rambling, but I think it's been nice to stop and, like, really philosophically invest and think about what I'm doing and why and how it affects people. And it's really cool to hear you guys saying very similar things. So
yeah. Well, I think
all that's probably going to get cut out.
No,
but that's the artistic way of thinking. Whether no matter what you choose to make, that's the kind of thought process. I think for a painting, for a song, for a podcast, for cooking a meal, is trying to find your input into the world.
And it makes the execution of it less messy and more approachable.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel also like, just what you were saying, like the editing of oneself, like, again, all of us, if we spoke 10 years ago, to the conversation we had now, whether I think we were in lockdown, whatever you want to call it, or not, it would be similar, in terms of our work ethic and how you're working. And
what made you start the podcast back up?
I've started meditating. I've started reading a lot of, and by a lot I've read 3 different, like, self-help meditation book kind of things. I really have a note here. You can't read it because my camera is in the way, but it says, how do I make the world a better place? And I wrote it in a really depressed place years and years and years ago, and have had it sitting on every desk I've had for years. And it's like, well, I think I'm okay at telling these kind of stories. I'm good at getting people to talk. What can I do different? Well, I can just approach things with my voice. Whereas before, the podcast was somebody else's voice. I was imitating Mark Maron. I was imitating Conan O'Brien and all these other people. And I think through this year, I've really found my voice, Damien's voice. And then I think I'm okay at, like, getting people to open up and talk about stuff. So it's like, let's go out there and try that. Let's stop just going like, what were your influences when you were 16? And, like, we try to find ways to make the world a better place. I don't know.
That's the hardest thing in the art world, is finding your own voice, or in the world in general, finding your own voice.
Well, and then when you find that voice, I feel like that's where the connection is, because you're able to converse and have it be a conversation and not an interview. And we literally are standing outside of Dante's after seeing Mike D right now and having this conversation.
Yeah. To keep going on that track, I want to, Vanessa in particular, you and I we found other ways to get ourselves involved in the scene, whether it be through art or cassettes or zines. I was always waiting for somebody to give me permission to do these things. I would tell people my ideas and be like, that's a bad idea, and I wouldn't do it. How did you find the courage to put your stuff out in the world? How did you figure out that, like, I can go make a magazine?
I think I just started doing it. Like, with the zine especially, I think it was anger and frustration too of a lot of negativity of, not having things going around that were, like, culturally interesting in the community. So that's really kind of why I started the zine, was just to kind of try to capture it all in one place and wrangle it and be sure that we were never, like, doing negative reviews on records, that it was all stuff that we were excited about and all the contributors and artists were excited about. So that was like, with the zine, was just, and then I think in terms of art, it was just not being represented, and just not seeing myself in it, you know, like not being a musician. And with the zine, I had started photographing first, and that was kind of how it all started. And I was too scared to write, so I would ask people to contribute, and I was too scared to be on the stage and all of these things. And then it was just kind of finally a bit of a fuck this, fuck everybody. I'm going to do some stuff for myself. I mean, that really started when we got together in terms of it being traveling, but out in California, I was doing shows and dive bars at the Parkside and vegan restaurants in San Jose. And then in terms of performing, I just asked Micah if he would play guitar while reading. And then from there, asking my friends to play music with me. That's how you get to start a band, even if you're speaking over it. So I recommend it to everybody.
I mean, it's worked for the Hold Steady for years. So all it takes is that one bit of courage, that one person that one like instance of like, I'm going to make this thing. Micah, do you remember that first thing that you made that kind of started this trajectory for you?
Yeah, I mean, I remember writing the first song, and then that was, I think I would have been 16 or 17, and I just wrote a song for English class, and that just kind of set me on the path. As far as the asking for permission thing, I'm absolutely guilty of that. I think the one I've always known I wasn't great, which sounds like self-deprecating. I don't mean it. Like, I always knew that I wasn't, or I had no aspirations to be the greatest thing. I just wanted to be in the game. So I was never scared and it took me a long time to find my voice and everything like that. But I've never been like weighted down by the, just kind of doing what I want to do. Yeah. So just write songs, and if one's bad, write another one that's good, and then write another one and another one. And, just keep doing the work. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's so hard to get past the asking for permission thing, because that's like beat into us through the school system, is to ask for permission for every single thing. And then you go and you want to make something, but one person doesn't like it, and you want to hang your head in shame and just never do anything.
And most people are just spending their time, not making it and leaving the shitty Yelp review or whatever.
Yeah, and it's so rarely that it's the person that's actually making another person that's making something that discourages somebody else. And if somebody does that, like, that's the worst. Yeah. What a shame that is. I feel like so many people get stopped at that step right there. So many people want to learn how to play guitar or sing a song or draw a picture, paint a picture, or have a podcast, but they're scared because somebody might make fun of it or write a crappy review about it, or their friends might not like it. And that's such a drag and a shame. I think if that's something, if somebody's listening to this.
Especially now, like, I was a fucking idiot. I made 3,000 copies every time of that zine, like, and I never had the money for it, and it was free. Like, what the fuck was I doing? Now, like, you can make songs during the pandemic on your phone. Like, you don't have to have a recording studio.
Right.
We had a friend, an acquaintance in the UK who we met on tour, send us his, new EP that he posted on Spotify and iTunes, because like he can have a professional looking platform like we can all do. Like, everybody has the access to it, which I think is cool now. So I would hope so that, like, you don't have to cut and paste. Well, cutting and pasting a zine is really cool, but like, you can also blog immediately or whatever, post a photo on Instagram and write a long caption, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's more accessible now.
Yeah.
Available.
Vanessa, I don't know how to like do what you do, so I want to ask you some questions about that stuff. And this is probably my favorite thing you've ever done, is this one right here that hangs in my bedroom. But I really like this stuff, but for a long time, I thought it was just Vanessa putting words on things. How is it not just pasting words to things? How is this not just spray painting words on a sheet? How is this creating art? So that maybe somebody out there who has these ideas can make these things. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. What the fuck am I doing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think anybody can do it. Like, especially if you were to line up all of the things that you have of mine, of just, it was wanting that in that moment and trying to figure out how to make it. And I think especially with words, again, not, you know, for a long time having a microphone, it was just different platforms. I always say how I think the alphabet is so cool because it's free and everyone has access to it. And especially with the stencils, I mean, you know, anyone can go to the craft store, cut them themselves and do that. For me, a lot of the materials are, I've always started sentimental, just in terms of coming from, I think, like an artistic family and not having a lot of things. So the few things that we had that were passed down from generations were always special. So when those folks started to pass away and incorporating those into work and then getting interested in, you know, thrifting or upcycling or collecting things along the way, and not just, you know, ordering 100 t-shirts with an idea of, or, you know, painting them myself, which is insane sometimes, but just tangibility and access. I mean, like, you know, exploring the leather was just a friend, what became like a leather worker, and hanging out with them and them teaching. And it was another way to make my messages wearable in different ways. So figuring it out along the way.
Well, it's the thing, right? It's like the most popular, I think probably the most popular Tucow song is G, C, and D. It's 3 chords on a guitar and some words. Like, and almost anybody can do that. Most people could do that, could learn 3 chords, you know? Like almost every Tim Barry song, you know, is just basic chords with alphabet, with what's going on in his life. Brilliant. You know, it's incredible. Why is that incredible? Anybody could pick up that guitar and talk about their lives. Why is it special? What makes it so important when this person does it? What does make it important? Who knows? Just the fact that maybe sometimes it's just the fact that they did it.
And I mean, it's definitely like has been a point of frustration, and that I've expressed to him plenty of, you know, sometimes feeling like too many tools in the shed. And I would love if there was one focus, but then I'm so thankful that it's not one thing, because I would be exhausted of that. And I think it keeps me interested in my own work. And something that we always talk about is like having to like refill your own well too. So even though I don't feel like I've been necessarily creatively productive of new things that I'm excited about during this time, I have to remember that like all of this goes into writing and future writing, and then showing up and, you know, doing 10 minutes of shitty journaling for the day.
And not to jump back to it, but like we're living through a very traumatizing time right now. We're all going to be dealing with this time in our work for the rest of our life. However much longer this, you know, that 18-month period, 18 to 24, you know, maybe 36-month period, we're going to be dealing with that in our work for the rest of our lives. All of us, you know, everybody around. So again, just staying alive right now. We don't have to be creating, you know, masterpieces or works of art.
You'll have plenty of material to reflect upon, children.
Yeah, the fact that you're doing this right now is fantastic. The fact that, you know, we're all sitting down and making a little bit of work right now in this time, that's big enough.
That's the general face, right?
Yeah. Man, you guys, Micah, you've gotten to travel. Both of you guys have gotten to travel the world through your art. There's a kid out there or somebody out there who's afraid of like making stuff. What advice do you have to make stuff? How do we get other people to get up off the couch and like make things?
You know, at this point, you can, if you have access to, I know it's not everybody has access to it, but most people have access to some kind of technology or something with GarageBand on it or something like that. You don't even need a guitar. You can sit down and make something. And
record notes onto your phone, you know, the audio.
Yeah. Don't turn the editor off in your head and just make something. And just make it. And once you're done making it, then you can and it's out into the world, you can make a judgment. You can recognize where you made your mistakes and move on from there. But don't let yourself get stuck in the not making things, because that can crush your spirit and last an entire lifetime.
Well, how did you write a book? How do you go from writing songs to writing a book?
I was super fortunate. There was a guy who runs White Gorilla Press, the super small press in Jersey, and he was a fan of Two Cow, and he approached me years before and was like, "Have you ever thought about writing a book?" And I was like, "That's something I would love to do. I don't know if I'm capable of doing that." And he just supported me. I started trying to write short stories and stuff and just sending it to him. He just kind of talked me through it, and he was like, "You can do it. You can do it."
Yeah, because the idea for the book started off as short stories.
Yeah. But just plugged away, and one person believed in me. One person thought that I could do it. And that's all it took. And I just pushed myself to
and his not to interrupt you, I'm sorry, but his publishing company is also White Gorilla is his passion and his hobby. It's his, so he only is doing
the things he wants to do. But yeah, one person believed in me, and again, it's one of those things. All I can see in that book now is like I see every mistake I made, I just learned. I'd never written a book before, and he was super nice and didn't like beat me over the head with anything, and he really helped me navigate the whole process and get through it. And now I kind of know that process, and I see every single mistake I've made, and I'm gonna try and do it again and try to do it a little bit better this time.
Yeah. Well, you definitely, and again, I hope people watching this are like, "Oh, he's kissing his ass." I fucking love the shit out of it.
Thank you.
It was really good. I want to know how much of Micah is in Henry, or is like you didn't work at a gas station, did you?
No, I didn't work at a gas station, but there's a lot of me. I mean, I don't know who could write a book that there's not a lot of them in it somewhere. But all the growing up in the small town and stuff, like that's the town that I grew up in. Like the map matches. You could take the map of that town and use it to walk around Bucyrus, Ohio, where I grew up, and it would all be there. From his apartment to the gas station to the coffee shop to the library, like everything. You could follow the map of Brooksville, and it's Bucyrus, Ohio. So yeah, there's a lot of me in there. A lot of the pain and how hard it was to grow up in rural America, the frustrations of it, and
empathy.
Yeah, trying to find empathy for that place and those people, which they deserve, but it's hard sometimes. Really hard to find empathy sometimes. So, but you have to reach deep and find it.
Yeah,
I did try to do that. When you can get to the point where you turn your brain off, just let yourself get it out, it's incredible the things that come out. It also shows that we don't actually have free will, but we can get to save that for a later date.
Yeah. What's your favorite music venue in Columbus?
I feel bad. I'm partial to Rumba Cafe. It's our neighborhood.
Yeah, that's like our spot. That's like
they have. It's not a bar hangout. It's a venue. So it's really nice that there's not like where the bar flies, like when we're home from tour.
And it's the kind of place, like if I'm in a bad situation, like if we're in a bad like financial situation or something, like they would just let us come work the door or something like that. Like that's our family home turf place.
And they have Tuesday night jazz. Sunday night is it's called the Hoodoo Soul Band, and they're a cover band with 20 players in it or something wild. And then also of having a friend work sound and be like, you guys need to get down here. And I think that's how we discovered Radkey and Listener. Yeah. And I've had plenty of beautiful moments of just going to listen to music and finding and falling in love.
Yeah.
So I think Rumba in Columbus is special.
That's special. Yeah. That's our special spot, I think, here in town.
last week talking with Jeff about the Black Sheep. He asked people to donate to the Save Our Stages thing. So you guys out there listening, watching, whatever, please donate to Save Our Stages to maybe save the Rumba. Micah and Vanessa, normally I like to leave this with like the question, how do we make the world a better place? I think we've already answered that. Make more art. So instead, I want to ask you guys, like, how do you find your voice? I think that's a good way to leave us today, like a good inspirational place.
Speaking and keep writing and keep drawing and keep singing and keep playing. And I've got a big old fat crush on Patti Smith, and she just always talks about doing your work. So that's my theme, and that's my biggest critique to myself is to do my work.
Every person that makes something, we start out imitating our heroes. That's how you start. That's what makes you inspired to go write a song or something. That's how everybody starts. It's okay. That is the way to get your feet in the water. For me, it took me a long time to find my voice, a long time, but I feel like I'm finding it more and more every single day now. Mm-hmm. So don't let that be intimidating to you, and just get in and
it's like a photo album, like your 6th grade photo. It's not like you're like, oh, I'm really stoked that hairsprayed my bangs that way. But it exists, and
it's a constant work. Mm-hmm. But as you do find it, as you grow into yourself and you start finding your artistic voice, there's nothing more satisfying than that, and kind of discovering yourself and getting closer to that voice in your head being the voice that you use in the world.
Well, welcome to the Mostly Harmless podcast. Thanks to Damien for having us. Welcome to the future, beep beep little buddies. It's not going to be easy, and it's probably going to get ugly. Are you scared? That's okay. I'm scared too. We can take comfort in the fact that no one else knows what to do. Racism, sexism, sarcasm, say grace to the shovel. Let's bury them along with these ridiculous coins we've been trading back and forth and killing one another over since forever. Let the future generations find them underneath the tracks of our high-speed train to take us to paradise and back in 9 minutes flat. Yeah, we're gonna have to build a brand new world that works for everyone. And when that day comes, you walk and dance in the streets. I know I probably won't be alive to see it. El regreso no será televisado. El regreso no será televisado. El regreso no será televisado. El regreso. I'd like to apologize to the kids on behalf of adults everywhere. I know we're asking a lot, but please beware. This world trying to divide you up by sex, skin color, and money. It's up to you as a joke, but it's never been funny, and I'm sorry to be so on the nose, but we squandered our chance to metaphor our asses out of the proverbial sling a long time ago. 180 character attention span we used to stark each other to emotional death. And this is where it's got us. This is where it's brought us. El regreso no será televisado. El regreso no será televisado. El regreso no será televisado. El regreso. El regreso. And plywood, hammers, fucking nails. We're gonna have to build one another up too big to fail. Because no one in power is coming to save us. We the poor people, we're on our own. El regreso no será televisado. El regreso no será televisado. El regreso no será televisado. El regreso. El regreso. Thanks, friends.
Hey, friends. Welcome to the Mostly Harmless podcast. Thank you to Damien for having us. We are Call Me Rita, and I am Vanessa Jean Speckman. feel like the spoon you left in the sink and got stuck in the garbage disposal, mangled up by the blades that chop up garbage and waste, enough to be shoved down city pipes by pressurized water. I fucking hate myself when I'm around you. Fruit fly on the taped Polaroids. There's nothing here for us but rotten memories of better times. I'm socially isolated via life choices, and the hookah bar kids across the street, they got a drone, and I'm just dying to be good at something and for you to notice me for that. My parents always told me that I was beautiful and good at anything as long as I set my mind to it. So here I am, 37 years old, thinking that I was 36 for the past 4 months, and I'm finally gonna get that drum set because the Olympics, they just never worked out. But I still have time. At least that's what my mom keeps telling me.